Lost is on.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Bite Sized. And, well, as a new thing, we are watching Lost. Because it's good. We think. Again, this is Bite Sized Media, a subsidiary of Off Slate Media. This is our new person on the camera / on the mic, Aaron. Aaron is a longtime friend of ours. Probably a longtime listener, maybe too. I think you've listened to some stuff.
Yeah, here and there.
Here and there?
Here and there.
Okay. Well, as I said, we're watching Lost. This is going to be a very long endeavor. We hope you stick with us. Right now, we're going to start with the pilot episode, pilot part 1. Guys, what do we remember about Lost in general? It was a long time ago. Wasn't it like 15 years ago now?
Yeah, I think it started in 04. Yeah, 04.
So 20 years ago.
20 years. Aaron, you should talk first.
Yeah. So, my first exposure to Lost was season 5, actually. I was, let's see, I think a junior in high school when it was airing, season 5, and we would, after youth group at church on Wednesday nights, go over to our friend's house and watch it live as it was airing. And I don't know, that was really my first exposure to like serialized television. Other than like, not other than, but outside of like sitcoms and stuff like that, which
I thought he was going to say SpongeBob for a second
I
there.
Also SpongeBob. Yeah, definitely also SpongeBob. And I don't know, that was kind of, it hooked me on to serialized TV in general, but also the show. It wasn't long after that I purchased all of the seasons of the show. Yeah.
Turn them so they can see the spine. I forgot to do that.
You can kind of see. It says Lost on there.
It's upside down on them.
There we go.
See? There it is.
We get to go through all that, ladies and gentlemen. All that.
Anyway, that took me about a month to go through.
Oh, man.
Yeah. So
Pre-streaming day. Well, big streaming days.
Yeah.
Too.
Yeah.
So you were changing discs.
Yes, I was.
I remember those menus were awesome.
That honestly is what I'm looking forward to most about this podcast, is just being able to see the menu again. Yeah.
I'm happy one of us has all of them. I like watching things physically.
Yeah.
No buffering. And the menus are cool.
Well, it's more about the nostalgia trip of the menus, yeah.
There's if we want a menu story real quick. It ties in. I have seen the show once. I watched those copies right there with Aaron's brother. We were in high school, so probably about 2010, 2011, somewhere in there. Like the show had ended. Season 6 was physically released. And it took us a couple months. I think we started in like the spring and got done right before school started. So a couple months. And yeah, like we'd put the disc in and we'd sit there and chat a second while looking at it. It's like, oh, what's this menu gonna be like? And sometimes it's like, oh, it's this extended scene of a character like standing somewhere and it's cool. And other times it's just like a shot of a tree.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, I get it. For how many discs and how many seasons, they all can't be winners. But my favorite one is there's a character who's like lying on the ground at night and there's like people in the distance. And he can't move, so he's just kind of laying there. And the menu's in the middle. And I remember thinking like, and I remember I fell asleep because I brought some home a couple times. I fell asleep, woke up, and I just see him lying there. And it's like when you hit play or you go to somewhere, like a car pulls up from off screen and picks him up. And I remember thinking like, that's such a cool thing for a menu.
Unfortunately, that was right before they started to phase out DVD. Well, maybe not right before, but it feels like right before.
They started simplifying menus. I think the first example is I bought The Curious Case of Benjamin Button on DVD around that time, like 2009. And I remember putting it in, and it was like play scene setup. And it was like a picture from like a still frame of like the poster.
Right.
and nothing's moving. It's like the menu with the little the silver icons. It's like the cheapest thing ever, and that was the beginning of the end. It's like, so there's no effort.
To be fair, there were different tiers. Not like collector's edition and not collector's edition, but there was like the release that you would get from like a Best Buy or a Meijer, but then there was the release you would get from like a rental store. Like if you went to Blockbuster and purchased them when they had them on sale, it was a rental copy, so it was real bare bones.
Yeah.
I should probably talk about my experience thoughts. As the oldest in this room, I actually watched Lost live because it started airing at the start of my senior year of high school. It's kind of the first show I watched beginning to end, other than like Friends, and other than like
it was the same year Friends ended that year.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Did Friends end in 2005 or 2004?
I thought it was 4.
So Friends ended the spring before this started.
That sounds right. I could be wrong.
That seems like an appropriate replacement that my dad would have chosen. Anyway, this is also the first time I was exposed to kind of buying seasons, because my parents would want to buy the seasons and go back and watch it because it's an overarching story. And really, I know it's not the first to do an overarching story as far as a television show goes, but I think in my generation, the first one that kind of caught culture and turned it.
For your generation, you're saying?
Yes, because I know like MASH is an overarching story and other things.
That is more episodic. I think The Sopranos predates this. And
Does
The
it?
Wire. I think Sopranos is like 99.
Really?
Yeah, and The Wire's got to be like around the same time. But that is HBO.
Yeah.
So an overarching
maybe
story
network television is what I mean.
Yeah, an overarching wasn't because like soap operas have been overarching for like 60 years.
I generally don't consider those television. I know they are, but my brain they don't even enter it.
Well, then there's a big one in the 80s. Is that Dallas?
Yeah.
And Dynasty, was that an overarching show too?
I don't think Dynasty was in the 80s, was it?
I don't remember.
But anyway,
but there are other examples of
I also wouldn't consider television airing in the 80s that like started before 86 kind of in my generation, because I feel like yes, it was on when I was born, but I was born.
Yeah.
All right. I think we should get started.
I think we're started.
Yeah, you ready?
All right, everybody ready?
Yeah. Let's
Get
lost.
Welcome back, everybody. We found ourselves after that episode.
Ha.
Anyway, I don't know about you guys, but this brought back a lot of memories for me.
Same.
It's also funny how, like we were talking about during the episode, how once you start remembering this first episode, it all just kind of seems to come back at once, and then it all seems like the show happened at once.
It's like, there's so-and-so. Oh, yeah, there's so-and-so. Oh, that's right. I forgot about that. Like, the whole time.
Yep.
We are going to try very hard for you, because we have all seen this. We all know what happens. We all know what parts inform what parts. We're going to try very hard to keep to the episode and the season that we are within.
Yes.
Yeah.
Don't know how successful we'll be, but we're going to try. So just
what?
You guys got anything to say?
What a way to start a show. Not just in terms of what happens in a first episode, but the first scene is like...
That's some of the best like chaos
Yeah.
kind of capturing I've seen. Even back in 2004, like I'd like to go through that in slow motion someday and just count how many people you actually see that you just don't see again.
Yeah.
Yeah, or like later when they're on the plane and it's Rose, right? It's who he talks to on the plane. And I remember thinking like, oh, is that guy next to her? Is that Bernard? Is it the same guy But then, there's no one sitting next to her because he's in the back. Okay.
Yeah.
So
There's a lot of this show, and this reminded me of it, that is just so well planned. I think a lot of it, I remember there not being a lot of it that's not. But that's what I was also going to say. This is kind of the first show that introduced me to the idea of a retcon.
Yeah. Well, I think I've seen, I think I watched some special features way back when I watched this, and it's like the boards and like the structure charts they have in that writer's room is insane. Because not only do we have here's what's happening for the story, they have to have all the backstories like any show Bible would have, but then like how all the timelines of every single character lines up, because there are a lot of main characters, and there's a lot of supporting characters, and we flash back a lot.
Yeah.
And this is Jack's. It always tells me. It tells me on Wikipedia who's the featured character, and this one is Jack. There's only the one scene, I believe, though.
I think so.
Because everything else is on the island to start.
18 million.
Yeah.
18.65. That's crazy for 2004, right?
Yeah. Well, it's crazy still because now like viewership on network television is a fraction of what it was, but.
Well, it doesn't look like it. It doesn't look like it really fell off in that first season either.
No, because again, when you start like that,
Yeah.
and it's a show that's very good at cliffhangers.
Yeah.
Like this isn't like the last shot of the pilot up in the tree. It's like it's not like the biggest cliffhanger, but it is kind of like a spot where you're so engaged already. Where when it does stop with that classic and the Lost logo,
Which I think changes over time.
I think it matters what's happened. I feel like there's an ending of an episode where it's a bright white light and then the logo. So they might do it a couple times, but I know you end up hating that logo because of that.
I remember hearing the sound when we were watching this and thinking, that seems different than what I'm used to, but I could be wrong. Again, this was 20 years ago.
I think I've seen season 1 enough times that is just the one that I know.
How many times have you seen the show in full?
Oh, in full once.
Just once, but you've seen season 1 multiple times.
Yeah, so I've let's see, tried to start it. I saw it all through the one time. I saw season 5 once before that.
That's right.
And then I've seen season 1 probably 3 times since then, and then I always stop at certain points during season 2.
Because it gets boring.
Yeah.
See, that's not how I remember. I remember season 3 being the boring one and season 2 being the exciting one for me. I wonder if it will be different, but it's just how I remember it.
Every time I try to watch through, I'm looking forward to the opening scene of season 3.
That's right.
Also, season 3 is where Juliet gets introduced. Juliet.
Yeah, here we are jumping. We're jumping.
Sorry. Sorry. I just said that we were going to try hard to do it, and I am the one.
He led you in, though, because he was talking about 2 and 3. But back to this first episode.
That was... Anyway.
Don't you point at me. This is your first time here. You don't point at me. Yeah. You have to earn the point.
Well, too late.
He just took it.
So we're introduced to some of our main characters. Jack is introduced as the main character of sorts. I know we have a lot of them, but he's the perspective we start with.
Yeah.
And it's very helpful that he's a doctor. It plays into the character, but it's like everyone has these little things that it's like, that's convenient, that's nice.
With so many characters, you got to wonder, like, because they clearly settled on someone as this is going to be the main character.
Well, it's a white guy.
I mean, I don't like to think about it like that, but yeah. I mean, you'd like to think that there is some reason that they selected him other than he's white.
It actually makes sense because he has the de facto leader traits, and being a doctor, he's kind of in. There's certain things he is in charge of just because, like the people's well-being, like
the scene with Ebony. It's why don't you do that thing where you push the pen through his throat? Okay, why don't you go get me a pen?
Okay, and then later he's like, I didn't know which one would work, and then because in the moment Jack's a bit of a dick, but then after
Jack's always a bit of a dick,
and then after it's settled when Boone brings him the pens, he just kind of takes. It could be me, and he's like, they're all fine. And he just takes them. Yeah, we didn't even, most of those characters we didn't, I think we learned Jack's name. We learned Claire's name, right? Mm-hmm. We learned Kate. We learned Charlie and Saeed. I don't think anyone else has said their name. We've seen Locke. We've seen Hurley.
Yep.
Hurley, right?
We saw Sawyer. Rose. Sun and Jin.
Mm-hmm. Michael and Walt.
And Vincent. The most important character.
Yeah. Oh, and Shannon.
Yeah.
Who has some, it's funny, like, I'm just going to eat when they come rescue us.
Yeah.
So, I don't, there's a lot of characters we haven't been formally introduced. And Jack and Kate and Charlie are really the only ones we know anything about right now.
Yeah.
I mean, all we know right now is Drive Shaft. He starts singing. That scene is always stuck in my head.
So here I go again on my own. In a show of cringe jokes where I'm about to make a statement about a cringe joke, there I go.
Again.
Okay. Go.
I was going to say, Charlie, I remember always cringing at...
When he starts singing.
No, I just cringe at his backstory. I think it's because
you relate to it.
Especially at that time in my life.
Oh, when I was watching this, I was relating to, like, not to go outside this episode, but when he talks, how much he talks about his band and how much it made me think about how, like, yeah, if I got stranded on an island with everyone like that, like right in the midst of something artistic, that's like the only thing on your mind, because it's like when you're waiting to go somewhere, it's like that's the only thing you're thinking about. It's like, I just can't wait to get back and work on this. And when we get into his backstory, there's more to it than that. But yeah, I connected to the artistic character in this as well.
He's one of the there's like a handful of them that I like them as characters, but I like their on the island story more than I like their backstory.
Oh yeah.
So like him definitely is one of them. Claire's probably another one. Claire. I don't want to. Yeah, I can't talk about the others because they're in other seasons. But
there's so many more characters to go. That's the crazy thing. We already have established our ensemble in this first part of the pilot, and not even fully. We don't know everyone's names. We don't know anything about most of them. We just kind of seen them reacting to it.
Yeah.
But it's like we have so many characters that we're balancing right now, and there's more to come in this season, and there's more to come in the next couple seasons.
Yeah,
it's just crazy how many characters they have to balance.
You do have to wonder how far that, because I'm not a person that believes that they had this whole show mapped.
It's got to be season by season.
You would think.
You have your show Bible, you have the overarching thing of this is what's happening, to the bare essentials, like the skeleton of it.
See, I feel like with a show like this, they would make so much money releasing that show Bible as like an actual publication.
That is true. Of course, it's probably massive.
But it also explained, like, and maybe it's 20 years later, it's probably too late, but it would just fill in the gaps that just didn't make it into the show as a whole.
Yeah. From my recollection of the show, it's like I feel like they knew their ending, and as a lot of shows do, as the show went on, things change and things morph, and it's like, okay, we have to change this, and this, because otherwise, way down the road, it won't make sense. But then, because they're doing all the retcons, that's why it doesn't always make sense, because it's like, okay, it changed, because you have to go with the changes, because often the show is evolving into something bigger and hopefully better. Can't you say, when you've talked about How I Met Your Mother, it's like they had the ending from the start, but then the show slowly changes, so it's like we still have to fit this ending that we set out to do.
Yeah, so I had never read it or heard it, but the kids recorded all their lines at once so that they didn't age, so they knew who the mother was for that entire 9 years, and just massive amounts of NDAs.
Yeah, so that's what happens with shows, and I don't think they, like in that show's case, I don't think they thought they were going to get, 9 or 10 seasons?
No, you wouldn't think that. I don't think it's a show you can start out that way.
Yeah, and then this one, I say only 6. It's not short, but it's like It's got to be a season by season thing, and they probably had everything down for season 1, and then details about what comes after. But then once this exploded, they started thinking more big picture,
and I think, and again, not to try to talk about other seasons, I think they got a lot of good stuff out of this.
Just this first episode has a lot of good stuff.
Yeah.
And it's just set up.
I will say, I'm not an aeronautical engineer. I do have some questions about how those engines were still running like that.
I will answer with, so the guy could get sucked into it.
Right?
Literally it. Because the second they showed the engine and Charlie standing next to it, I think you're going to go, that's right.
Yeah.
Because I think they play that in future parts of the show, that moment of the guy getting sucked up.
Would you say that this is the start of the more cinematic television turn? Maybe not the start, but
most people attribute that to The Sopranos and The Wire, like those HBO
I've never
shows.
seen The Sopranos, so.
I haven't either. But like that's where people say like this current age, like this golden or silver age of television, where it is more cinematic, starts with The Sopranos, then The Wire, then Breaking Bad, and then Game of Thrones. That's like the 4 big ones. And Mad Men would be the 5th. Like those all in a row, the HBO and AMC shows are kind of what changed the playing field. This, of course, factors in too, because whereas a couple of those other ones are not network television, this one is, and this was very popular.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, it got my dad to buy seasons of it, so physical. You got to understand, my dad doesn't watch a single thing ever twice. Except for
that was
Bonanza or Gunsmoke.
Yeah. That was our family too. I mean, we had Everybody Loves Raymond
And Lost.
and then Lost.
I can still see under your family TV, there's not many cases down there, but there's until you took them into your room.
Yeah.
All the Lost seasons, all the Raymond seasons, and then a couple others like Saving Private Ryan's in there.
Yep.
Stuff like
a couple
that.
random movies.
Yeah, stuff
Star
you'd
Wars.
expect.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's nuts to think that this show, I watched like 80% of the show at what is your parents' house, but where you used to live there.
Yeah.
Like, watch that there. On multiple TVs, I think we watched it in the downstairs area TV a lot, a couple times up in the living room. And then I watched like the other 20%. I think I watched the first 4 or 5 season finales at my house. He'd lend it to me because it's like we're almost at the end because it's the summer. You're just sitting there all day watching Lost. Those are the days. He'd just give it to me, and like that night I'd finish the season. I don't think I finished any of the seasons with your brother until like season 5.
Didn't you guys eventually transition into watching them with Steve?
No.
Too?
Never did.
Well, that's where I watched season 5 originally.
Yeah, I was gonna say I remember watching Lost down in his basement with you, I think.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, and that's that first wave, and then
Yep.
me and your brother, that second wave of the show's over. I've heard all this stuff about it, how disappointed people were with the end, whilst other people were.
I wonder how that's gonna land this time. I'm sorry, I can't not think about
The future.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe I won't say it this way, but my sister spoiled the show for me. In the first season.
Wow.
I was like halfway through the season, and there were 2 big things she told me that it didn't ruin it. One of them wasn't a spoiler. It was kind of a she accidentally did, and then the other one she straight up told me something, and it's not 100% true what she said. But it's like, why would you tell me that?
Yeah.
I'm in season 1. I've got like 100 episodes to go or whatever. Like, why would you say that
So
to me?
I'm going to ask something that I asked while we were watching this. So this is, I believe, a post Jurassic Park 3
Yeah,
world.
it was 03. I think it was a year before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how many people, because I don't know when exactly they reveal it to be a smoke monster, how many people thought it was a dinosaur, and for how long, I wonder?
Yeah.
Because like it's set up exactly the way Jurassic Park 3 does it.
I mean, because it's a rainy jungle.
It's a rainy jungle. The dude gets ripped through the cockpit
Right.
Yeah.
and then shows up in a tree bloody.
Yeah.
That's funny because
And it sounds like what the sounds they use for a dinosaur. More than that, but
Jurassic Park 3 is for a long time was the first and only Jurassic Park my brother and I ever saw.
I was
And then
Alan.
Alan.
yeah. So I don't remember what I thought
You must have been
was,
so confused by all of that then.
Oh, man.
I mean, more confused than the rest of us watching it, having watched the other two.
yeah. Also, this
Especially
show.
that one. I think you can watch the second one on its own, but the third one
Yeah.
relies on the other two.
The second one I've seen one time, and most of it I've slept through. So
There's
I don't
very
even know
little
what-
character introduction in that third one at all.
Because it's like, well,
Yeah.
the last time didn't work with some of the new characters. Let's go back. But that's a bit of
Yeah. This too, though. Watching season 5 and then going back to season 1 and following. I'm even like.
Did you find it less entertaining going back and watching it, knowing where it was going?
I would say no. I thought it was all very entertaining, but I think some of that had to do with like just getting into TV this way. I don't know. It kind of felt like where I was used to episodic television. Just every episode is just
Its own thing.
Its own thing. And then all the cliffhangers and everything. I was really into it.
Yeah, I was going to say, like I said in the opening, I know it's not the first TV show to do this, but it's the first one that I remember being just really hooked into.
Yeah.
Do you know what I think would be really fun before we get to the social reads?
What?
I think that we should track our favorite and least favorite characters.
Well, I think we already have those picked because of watching this. Like, oh yeah, that's all we did.
Yeah.
Yeah, so. Okay. Well, you want to do the social, you don't want to do that. Okay.
We'll do that next week once we finish the pilot.
Okay.
We're almost out of
yeah.
time
All right.
here,
Well,
but-
other than that, you can check us out any other day of the week on YouTube. And Jared, where else can they find us?
You can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, The Funny, TikTok, and X.
Formerly known as Twitter.
And you can listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and hey, if it's YouTube, like, subscribe, comment, ring our notification bell, and check us out on all those apps and stuff and whatever, and
Groovy website.
And our groovy
and
website.
something. It's like we haven't done this in
since last
a
year.
week.
Since last year.
Anyway, like you said, if you're on YouTube, come check out our smiling faces. I think this is the only series we got running right now for the foreseeable future, just because this is such a big undertaking. Click that notification bell, get notified every time we upload new videos. And next week, we're watching the second part of the pilot. Come along, get lost with us as we go through this, and
You all, everybody.
take a bite.